Fellas, what's going on, guys?
What's good, bro? What's good?
D-Sprat, how you living, brody?
Man, I'm living large and in charge. Happy to be back with you guys today talking about another crazy urban legend.
Ooh, I think this one's going to be a good one.
It's going to be a doozy.
It's going to be an awesome one.
Yeah, not a good one.
Definitely ain't going to
never
suck.
good.
It's going to be awesome.
Let's try to make it. Let's try to make that bar high, huh?
This awesome episode from Discovery Plus. This is Urban Legends with the Ghost Brother.
I'm your boy, Dalen Sprizz.
And I am the Marcus Harvey.
And I'm the paranormal poppy, Jawan Mass.
And if you have not seen our hit show...
Oh, it's a hit.
A home run, baby.
We are Atlanta's premier paranormal
Wait. Not Atlanta.
Oh, excuse me. My bad, Marcus. I surely downplayed us. We are the galaxy.
There you go.
Universe. Premier paranormal investigators. Mm-hmm. When I tell you we love the history, I mean, we love investigating. Mm-hmm. And Jawan, what else do we love?
We love getting scared.
You gonna get that one.
That word. I love the rumble in that. It's the crescendo.
I don't know what it is about
It's the crescendo.
But don't you worry about it, because on this podcast, we will look at some of the most infamous creepy tales. I mean, where did these urban legends come from? We'll investigate them. We'll even talk to some experts and maybe even channel some spirits, Marcus.
Oh, well,
talking drink.
Well, today. Can I talk about today?
Please do.
Today, can I talk about today?
Don't talk about tomorrow.
Don't talk about today. Today, we're talking about the legend straight from Staten Island. An escaped mental patient who lives in the woods and loves to kill children. Oh, he has a hook for a hand. What? And of course, this terrifying legend is called Cropsey. All right, so Dalen, man, I feel like you've heard of Cropsey. I mean, here and there, he's like the boogeyman. I imagine him hiding in an old abandoned building in the woods. But besides that, I don't know too much about him.
I mean, you're not wrong with your synopsis.
Okay.
But I did do a little preparation for today.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell y'all how fully educated I am on this legend.
Okay, break it down then.
So the next time you're in Staten Island, you can be acquainted with its historical events, like Cropsey or the Wu-Tang Clan, because they ain't nothing to mess with.
All right. I see what's going on.
Sorry, go ahead. My bad.
No, that's cool.
Wrong show.
So where are we starting?
I think we got to start with just the myth itself first and foremost, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So if you grew up in or around New York, you probably heard of the legend of Cropsey. But you imagine him as this like boogeyman
Hey,
type
forget
figure.
about it.
Hey, man, forget about it.
You're stepping on my foot here.
But look, though, he lived in the ruins of this old Seaview sanitarium.
Oh.
You see, for the young folks listening, that's where they put all the people who were really, really sick. I mean, like if you had tuberculosis, if you might have had
what's that thing
electrophonesis.
What's that thing that you can get money off of? Melanothenamine.
Listen, if you have been affected by melanothenaminosis,
okay,
no,
call this number.
That's where they put all the people with
that's
that.
Where,
that's where class action started.
Listen, the people don't tell you when you call that number that you hear on television. This is where they put you.
Okay,
it's really just a bait and switch.
That's
yeah.
Oh man,
but yeah, man, this is Staten Island.
Okay.
Anyway, Cropsey lives in this tunnel, right? Beneath this old hospital. And sometimes he comes out, and when he sees kids, he drags them back into the tunnel, and then he kills them.
You mean to tell me he's dragging kids back into these tunnels?
I mean, is he like
that's
using
kidnapping, isn't it? Like I'm not a cop, but I'm just saying.
I'm just trying to figure out if he's using this hook like an instrument. You know what I'm saying?
Well, to answer both of your questions, yes, Jawan, that is kidnapping, because moving someone more than 20 feet against their will is considered kidnapping.
How did you know?
Number two,
how did you know the specific?
And to your question, Marcus,
okay,
yes, he used his hook like an instrument, like the violinist he was with his cutting.
What? I don't think he was a violinist.
No,
but
he was that
he
surgical.
He may have been an artist.
He was an artist with his kidnapping and cutting with a hook.
Okay. Did any of these kids get away?
Well, in the 1980s, the legend kind of took a turn. Yeah, it became very real, guys.
That doesn't sound good at all.
I mean, way more realer than it already does sound. So look, there was this school on Staten Island called Willowbrook State School, right? And if you Google it, all kinds of crazy, awful stuff comes up.
So this is in the sanitarium?
Right, but it was very close to the sanitarium. So Willowbrook is a school for mentally ill children and the disabled children, okay?
Uh-huh.
So also, many children who were there were neglected by the system. And this place was huge. It had like 6,000 kids at one point.
That's a lot of kids,
That's
man.
a lot of kids. But look, though, it turns out after some investigating by none other than guess who?
Who?
Not Ricky Lake.
Okay.
Not Sally Jesse Raphael.
No.
Raphael.
Michael Williams?
Geraldo Rivera.
Geraldo.
Look, man,
Geraldo.
Geraldo went in there, and look, he showed that this school,
He had the whole mustache?
oh my gosh, his mustache was twinging.
Okay.
It was a total nightmare. All kinds of abuse. They had medical experiments on children. I mean, you name an awful thing, and pretty much it happened there.
Dang, that's deep.
And as you can imagine, if abuse of all kinds is permitted at this school, then there's gotta be some evil people working there. Because only evil people would do evil things to kids.
Terrible
Yeah,
people.
that sounds about right.
Look, the school shuts down in 1987,
Mm-hmm.
literally 2 years after I'm born.
Mm-hmm.
And rumors start to circulate about former patients and former employees disappearing into the tunnels underneath and now the abandoned school.
Cropsey loves some doggone tunnels, don't he?
Man, listen, and just like the legend goes, kids around Staten Island, they actually go missing.
He dragging them?
I felt this coming in next.
In 1987, the same year as the school shut down, a local girl goes missing. So she's 12 years old. She had Down syndrome.
Okay.
Her name was Jennifer. And later on, her body was actually found in a shallow grave in the woods near Willowbrook.
Whoa.
Look, but though, this is where it gets wild. The last person Jennifer was seen with was a guy named Andre. Andre ran. And coincidentally, he lived in the woods not far from where her body was found.
Wait, he lived in the woods around the school?
Yeah, man. So look, Rand was a transient at the time. He was also a former Willowbrook worker. He held jobs as like a janitor and as like a physical therapist at different points. Wait, hold on. How you go from a janitor
It's like,
I gotta
to a
point
physical
out,
therapist?
You
He had a
those
plan.
are-
yo,
those are
you went
two-
from cleaning the doggone cafeteria to like stretching folks?
No.
I don't know about that, man. Now you got way too close. Rad. If that's what your name tag says.
It's Rand.
My bad, Rand.
It's Rand.
Rand. Where you going, Rand? Where you going, Rand? Where you going?
They finally arrest Rand, right? And the jury only convicts him on her disappearance. They don't feel that they had enough evidence that he killed her. But Jennifer isn't Rand's only alleged victim.
Tell us.
Marcus,
Tell us.
I got a cliffhanger for you.
Of course you do.
Because you're going to wait to hear about all that till later in the show. When I talked to filmmaker Joshua Zeman, who made the Cropsey documentary, look, he's going to share his childhood stories with us and go deep inside this case. Man, this man talked to some people that have seen some things. And trust me, y'all are going to want to hear about it.
All right, we're back. I have a little game in store for Marcus and Dalen. All right, y'all ready to play?
I don't feel like we have. I feel like we have a choice.
I mean, what are we going to do?
I blocked off the hour.
We're here. We're locked in. Come on. What's up?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, let's do the game. Hooray.
See what I have going on here? I have some co-hosts that lack pride and enthusiasm. I need y'all to be ready to play. Y'all ready to play this game?
We locked in, man.
We're
go.
locked
Duck,
in.
duck,
Let's
goose.
go.
Well, I came up with a little game, and today I'd like to call it Scary Island or Staten Island.
Juwan gonna get us beat up in these streets.
I mean, I be in Staten Island a lot,
Right.
son.
If
right?
you get beat up, it won't be because of me.
They're going to be like, yo, son, I heard you talking about Staten Island, B.
Wu-Tang Clan.
Yo, what's up?
We
I'm
love you,
sorry.
Staten Island.
We love you, Staten Island.
That's
All the
why
way.
you might get beat up.
That's
Horrible impression.
Dang, that might be it.
All right, so I'm going to give you guys a fact,
Okay.
a piece
Mhm.
of information, and you will tell me if it happened on Staten Island or not.
So, Scary Island means it did not happen on Staten Island?
Correct. You're
Okay.
following along
Okay,
quite nice.
okay, I'm ready.
So-
I'm ready.
I'll start with you, Marcus.
Let's go.
Question number 1. Nearly 1,000 bodies were found under the Staten Island Zoo in 1915.
What?
I'm going to go with, Staten Island, son.
Ooh. You are incorrect. That is actually...
I said Scary Island.
Yep.
That's what I heard.
Yep.
You heard Scary Island
That's what I
too?
heard.
That's what I said at
That
first.
didn't happen in Staten Island.
Oh, man.
You know,
Where did that happen at?
I don't have that information.
That's outside of your realm.
You just know that I'm wrong.
I
That's
just
all you
know that it didn't happen in Staten Island.
Okay, my bad. Okay, cool. I'll let that live. I'll let that live.
Dalen, your turn. On New Year's Eve, 2010, 5,000 blackbirds freaked out and slammed into buildings, telephone poles, you name it, all over Staten Island.
Ooh, I know that's true. They made a movie about that.
Ooh, I know you're wrong. Because that's definitely Scary Island. But you could say Scary Arkansas because it did happen there. Officials believe that all the fireworks going off that night scared them. But what's creepy, the next year it happened again and there weren't any fireworks. So, you know, it's okay, bro.
Whoa.
Marcus, you're up next.
I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Staten Island is known to the Thriller Killer, a serial killer who terrorized the island in the 70s and 80s, leaving at least 6 dead in his wake.
Staten Island got to be known for something.
Something.
So I'm going to go ahead and go with, it's Staten Island.
Yeah.
All
my
right,
man.
come on. I was getting nervous. Like, come on now.
Somebody got to get something right.
Something got to happen.
Right.
Bro,
Something got to give.
You are absolutely right. What's kind of nuts is that he was caught on his first murder and was given life sentence, right? But it got cut down to 17 years for good behavior.
Oh, that's cool. That's nice.
And then he went back out and killed 5 more people.
God damn.
Dang it. They let
You
the
try to do rehabilitation.
See, I thought we gave you 17 years to get it right.
Tony, we did you a favor, Tony.
Now you're back in here. He said, I learned how to do it better.
And the authorities believe there could be more out there.
That's jacked up, man.
Dalen, next question is yours, my man.
Okay, I'm on this one.
You got it?
Yep.
All right. On November 2nd,
Okay, I'm locked in.
1963.
Shoot, sounds like history class.
Yep. Staten Island Ferry was on its usual route when it was attacked by a giant octopus. The boat went under in minutes. Not one of the 400 passengers on board survived.
Wait.
Read
What
through
body
it. I know
of
it's a lot.
water is connected to it? Let me get that first.
Get that right.
What body of water are we
break it
talking
down.
about?
You know,
What body of water do you
deductive
think
reasoning.
Staten Island is surrounded by?
Jawan, if I knew, I would ask. I wouldn't ask.
You better
wouldn't
phone
ask.
a friend.
Jawan, you're my friend.
I can't be your lifeline. I'm the host.
Marcus, what body of water surrounds Staten Island?
cold.
Okay.
It's the cold water.
All right.
I got you.
You got
I gotta see how deep it is.
You got
man.
2 more
10
lifelines.
feet.
I gotta see how deep
10
it
feet
is to
deep.
know how big an octopus could that can knock down a boat and kill 400 people.
I like that you're trying to do deductive reasoning, but
No.
you only got 10 more seconds.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Scary Island.
Ooh, you are correct.
Yes.
You know,
Even
man,
though
no damn
this does-
octopus in
Hey,
no
listen.
why would that be so hard?
My man thought
What?
a giant squid was going to attack a boat.
This is not Watchmen.
Listen,
This
hey,
is
man,
not the Watchmen.
Was there not a giant
Hey.
gorilla climbing a building in Manhattan?
That was
Listen,
in
fair.
King Kong, dummy.
Oh, shit.
My man pulled a rabbit out of a hat with that one. Even though this didn't happen, you might have seen a monument to this alleged occurrence. Back in 2016, an artist fooled folks by erecting a monument to the 1963 Staten Island ferry disaster. I believe we have a tie, guys.
That's what happens when greatness meets greatness.
Let me ask you this. When you lifeline me in as a friend, didn't that give me half a point?
No,
Ooh.
no, because you didn't provide any value.
I said cold.
Ooh.
I straight up said cold.
Right.
And what did that lead you to doing?
Nothing.
Getting the answer right.
Okay.
Half a point.
That's fair.
So if he gave you a half and he has a half, wouldn't y'all still be tied?
Carry the 3, 5 by
But you-
6.
But the Pythagorean theorem, a squared
Put
plus.
that 2 on the top.
If y'all had to split that?
I'll let that happen. I'll let that happen.
We
still
twins.
thinking about it?
We twins.
Twin
We twins.
tides.
We twin
Okay.
guys.
Got it.
Twinsies.
So no prizes awarded today. Got it. Okay, guys.
Can we split the prize?
No prizes awarded. We don't have a winner.
I don't think you had a prize.
I don't
I
think he had
did.
a
It was
prize
going to be a
either.
Lorenz Spratt piece.
Oh, okay. Where can I
Yeah.
get that at?
Don't worry about it.
Or
or at LorenzSpread.com. Easy plug. There you go.
Hey. Let's go. Okay, y'all. Next, Dalen, is your interview with Cropsey filmmaker Josh Zeman.
Ooh.
That's right, man. Sit tight, hold tight, and get right. Because when I come back, you in for a midnight surprise.
Is it all night?
Oh, listen. On every episode of Urban Legends with the Ghost Brothers, we like to explore our urban legends deeper with the help of some of our friends in the paranormal world. Maybe they're paranormal investigators, maybe they're writers, but today we have something special. We have a filmmaker. Joshua Zeman wrote and co-directed the 2009 documentary Cropsey. Look, man, this is something very interesting, and I'm excited to get into this legend. So, Joshua, man, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, always, man. I'm doing great. So let me get this straight, man. You actually grew up with the legend of Cropsey, right? This is something that you've always heard about. Like, it was new to me. Like, I learned about it this year.
Yeah, we always so I grew up in Staten Island, New York in the 80s, like 70s and 80s. And when we were growing up, there were two things. There was the Willowbrook Mental Institution, which was in the middle of Staten Island. Then there was the Seaview kind of tuberculosis wards, which was also in the middle of Staten Island.
Wow.
And then the farm colony, which was like the poorhouse. And there were these like three facilities in the middle of Staten Island, like in the woods. And we grew up around them. And we would hang out. We would go to like camp there. And there was always this legend of this guy named Cropsey, who was an escaped mental patient who lived in the tunnels underneath these institutions. And if you were there, like hanging out, like when we were older for a keg party or something like that, he would come out and he would snatch you. And he had an axe.
Okay, so the axe was his weapon of choice.
That was his thing.
Okay, so did you ever, growing up, push it to the limit, man? Or, you know what I'm saying? Go out there with the sole purpose of trying to stir up Cropsey. Is that what the kids used to do back then?
Oh, yeah. So, like, the interesting thing was, like, we were just kids, right? And so we were always be like, oh, let's go to the mental institution. Let's go to the tunnels. And, there was abandoned, like, papers of, like, all the people who died there. And there was old, like, wheelchairs and tricycles and stuff like that. So, like, it definitely freaked us out.
Right.
And we would go there to, like, hang out and scare each other. You take a girl there, you go drink there, you do everything there. And it was very interesting because when we started to make this movie, we realized like there's a name for that. Like folklorists have a name for kids going to certain places and freaking themselves out. It's called legend tripping.
Wow. Okay. That sounds like a dope t-shirt. Legend tripping, man.
Does.
Okay, so we have a name for it now. So let me ask you, so what did any particular instance inspire you to make this movie? At what point did you be like, oh no?
Yeah. Well, so we had always heard about the legend. We didn't really think anything of it. Like, I think we knew that they were saying parents would tell us this because they didn't want us to go there and like die, because sometimes the floors were like missing in these buildings and you could easily die. Then in 1987, a little girl with Down syndrome named Jennifer Schweiger disappeared from our neighborhood. And suddenly everybody's like, oh my God, where is this missing child? And after 6 weeks, a bunch of searchers, like citizen searchers, found her body buried on the grounds of that same mental institution that we would go in and hang out.
Wow.
And they arrest this guy. His name is Andre Rand. And he wasn't an escaped mental patient like the urban legend had suggested. He was a former orderly who had worked there. And then when Willowbrook shut down, he went to go live on the grounds in like a campsite. And he was like a homeless guy. And that's when the police revealed that this guy had been suspected in taking a number of other missing kids, like over 30 years.
Wow.
And apparently they could never catch him. So because they couldn't catch him, like word filtered out to the parents, and the parents were telling us, they weren't saying, hey, don't go to this area because there's a pedophile who lives there. They were just saying, don't go to this area because an escaped mental patient would go there. Like, they made it more terrifying for kids. And that's what cautionary tales are about. That's what parents do. They don't say, hey, don't go have sex in that car.
Right.
They say, don't go hang out there because One-Armed Willie is going to come out and get you. You know?
Yeah. Because that definitely stopped me from having sex in the car a couple of times. One-Armed Willie. You can't get caught by One-Armed Willie, man. But no, okay, so that's interesting. So it's almost like this urban legend was birthed from just the parents trying to keep you, you know what I mean? Isn't it like Freddy Krueger or somebody? Isn't it like the real story behind Freddy Krueger?
Well, Freddy Krueger, to my knowledge, was born because it was a nun who had been trapped in a mental institution and had been raped by 1,000 crazy inmates. And then that child was Freddy was born from that. I mean, there's a lot of those types of stories. But here's the interesting thing. This was a weird thing in which we had an urban legend, because there's always urban legends about mental institutions. You go to every town,
right,
and there's always an urban legend about a mental institution. And then Cropsey. Well, Cropsey was a name that had been taken from an urban legend in upstate New York, sleepaway camps in the 1950s and 60s. That was the caretaker of the camp. You know, his name was Cropsey, and somehow that name kind of filtered down. And I think it was because all the kids had seen The Burning.
Yeah.
That slasher film.
Right.
So they named my guy Cropsey. But there was also something real going on. And that's the other thing about urban legends. Urban legends usually have some form of truth behind them.
Right.
There's always something real. But it's usually unsolved. And that's what creates the legend. You know, the fact that there's a real thing, there's no answer to it. So then people kind of pick it up and run with it.
Right. So before you started with the film, obviously you knew a lot about this situation. So after you filmed this, in your experience, what do you feel like you've uncovered since then?
It's really about how communities create their own monsters, you know, and how, you know, we all have these stories growing up, and people take those stories and then they use it to their advantage. Like we had the urban legend of Cropsey, and parents took that story and used it to prevent kids from hanging out. So I learned about the legal system. I learned about how communities create urban legends and scapegoat. And I also learned about the power of urban legends. I had no idea how urban legends started.
Right.
And that led me to do another film called Killer Legends, in which we looked at all these other urban legends around the country.
So the guy who Cropsey was essentially made around, Andre Rand, it seems like you got pretty far in your movie. Were you able to speak with him, or?
Oh yeah, we were corresponding with him, like sending letters to the jail and him sending letters back, and they were always super creepy and super crazy, asking, what did you do with the children? Where are they buried? Because he had taken, theoretically, 3 other missing kids or 4 other missing kids. We can never find the bodies.
Okay.
It's believed that they're buried somewhere on the grounds of the mental institution.
So let me ask you, after talking to him or corresponding, doing all your research, do you feel like he was responsible for the acts that he's accused of?
I feel he was definitely responsible for some of them, but maybe not all of them. You know, that's what prosecutors do. What happens is you have a guy, a crazy, you know, serial killer like Henry Lee Lucas or somebody like that. Did you do this one? Did you do this one? Did you do this one? You know, they start throwing all the crimes on him because then they could close out the books.
The cases. Right.
Yeah.
Dang, that's so. Is he's still alive today? There?
Yeah, he's in jail. He was in jail with like Son of Sam. He's like up there in the New York penal system. He is up there.
Right. So from my understanding, when you were trying to interview him, you started unraveling all these other people connected to him, right? Mm-hmm. And what is this about a school bus?
Yeah. One of the things that he did, it's a crazy story. He took a bunch of kids to watch the planes take off in Newark. And I guess he got a school bus and he said, hey, anybody want to go see the planes take off and we'll go to White Castle? And the kids are like, yeah, sure. They don't know any better.
Right.
They're little
it's
kids.
A school bus.
And it's a school bus. And so he takes them to Willowbrook. Actually, he does take them to the Newark airport, and then he takes them to Willowbrook. And he was just doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Crazy shit. Nobody had any idea what he was doing.
But, okay, so that's a true story. This guy that's sitting in jail right now stole a school bus full of kids, took them to White Castle, because they had to get some White Castle.
Of course.
And then brought them to the Willowbrook place.
Yeah, brought him to Willowbrook. We ended up finding out that this guy, his mother was in a mental institution. a very similar, almost exactly styled mental institution in Long Island. And so he was working through some shit from his childhood, and we believe that he had a messiah complex. Basically, he was taking out disabled or underadvantaged kids rather than have them live this life of not being wanted like maybe he was.
Right. So was there ever any evidence of like weird things or just any type of stuff happening under Willowbrook?
There were tunnels.
Okay.
So we always hear urban legends about tunnels, right?
Right.
Whether it's a college, whether it's a hospital, always
city,
urban legends about tunnels, right? Always, right? Well, in this case, there really were tunnels. And in some of these institutions, there are. So basically what happens is imagine this, you're bringing 10 mentally disabled kids from one building to another, right? To go get lunch or to go schooling. And at the time, there just were not that many attendants for the amount of kids.
Right.
And these kids are severely mentally disabled. So you're walking them from building to building outside and they're starting to just run away. So you would really have to keep them together.
Right.
So that's really hard to do. Number one, it's hard to manage these kids.
Right.
Number two, you're talking about a huge facility. There were like 16 buildings. It was like 380 acres. And it's government run in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So they built tunnels underneath because they didn't have to, shovel the snow.
Right.
And it was easier to take kids from one building to another because they just had to go down a tunnel.
Right.
So these tunnels were real. And we would see like characters, like kids' characters painted in the tunnels. And with like little lines like stop and count the children.
What?
Like a note to the attendant, like stop and count how many kids you have going from this building into this building
like
or turning this corner. Yeah. And you would be there with a flashlight looking at this shit and your mind at that point would just explode.
Okay. So you touched on these urban legends and what they say about us. I'm curious to what you think this urban legend says about Staten Island.
So Staten Island is a very interesting place.
Right.
It's the fifth borough. Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, Bronx, Staten Island. It was always an island, so you had to get there by a bridge. And when there were no bridges beforehand, it was a place where basically you sent stuff. So back in the day, that's where you sent people who had tuberculosis.
Right.
You didn't want them hanging out in the tenements. You sent them over to Staten Island, where they could either convalesce or die.
Right.
When you had poor people, you didn't want them in Manhattan and the rest of the boroughs, you sent them there. There was a poor farm. They could work on a farm and grow vegetables and maybe earn back the living.
Mm-hmm.
Or there was, Willowbrook before was a mental institution, was a hospital for veterans. You can't have veterans walking around the city with, all these disabilities.
Right.
You sent them there. And for a very long time, it was also the largest garbage dump in America.
Are you serious?
Fresh Kills Landfill, the largest garbage dump in America. So big, there was an urban legend that you could see it from space.
Wow.
So Staten Island was where you sent your trash. And you sent everything that nobody wanted.
Right.
When you have your trash and your people and all these, it's like the land of broken toys, when you send everybody there, eventually you have all that bad stuff that nobody wants in one concentrated area.
Mm-hmm.
Shit is going to happen.
Right.
Bad shit is going to happen.
Right. So let me ask you this. 2021, what is the energy like in Staten Island now? It's
very different.
Okay.
It's very different. Now there's a whole bunch of different cultures in there, and I think it's a lot more vibrant, but Staten Island still wrestles with the fact that it's, the forgotten borough. Wu-Tang's from there. So,
right.
we've been doing things and making it up. The dump is no longer a dump. It's now a nice nature preserve. It was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
When we started our film, only the kids on Staten Island and in our neighborhoods knew about Cropsey. They knew he was this, mental patient who disappeared. And we would go hang out in those buildings, but it wasn't a thing. After Cropsey came out, maybe 5 years later, we went back on Halloween night to the same place. And this place was crowded with kids being like, Cropsey's here, Cropsey's here. Right. So it was so interesting to see how we took a small urban legend and blew it out.
Right.
And made another chapter in that story, and how the kids of today, like Polish kids or Romanian kids or Ecuadorian kids, picked up this story and like they ran with it and they made it their own. And that was very interesting. That's the power of an urban legend. What's also cool I learned about urban legends is no matter how much you and I try to demystify an urban legend, say, oh, it's not true, what that does is actually in some ways only add to the power of the urban legend. Every time you try and blow it apart, it only gets better and bigger. And so we realized that as well. And now when it's so weird, because when you talk about Staten, if you do like the urban legend map, you've always the map of like everybody and all the urban legends, like Staten Island's like Cropsey, or New York even is like Cropsey. You know, that's become the urban legend. And I think that grew. When I started in 2009, people didn't talk about urban legends like they do. We didn't have ghost hunter shows like we do now. And so that was very interesting to see that.
Right.
The reason I made Cropsey was because Blair Witch had come out that year.
The infamous Blair Witch.
I said, that shit is scary, but let me tell you something, or let me show you something.
Right.
Which is just as scary.
Yeah.
Real life.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is if you watch Cropsey, or even if you've seen American Horror Story Asylum, which you took parts of Cropsey from, there's footage in there of Geraldo Rivera with these cameras going back in the 70s and showing the conditions. And it was a nightmare. It was horrific. Imagine there were so many people, so many kids, basically. There were like 50 kids for 2 attendants. And kids were just running around, no clothes on. They didn't wear clothes. You know, they were shitting and pissing everywhere. And it was a nightmare. It was a true nightmare. There's one guy that Geraldo Rivera befriended. His name's Bernard Cabello. Bernard had MS, multiple sclerosis, right? He had no mental disability. And this guy was dropped off by his parents and left there. And he's sitting there and he fully understands what's going on. Imagine being in that kind of trapped in that world.
That's insane. That's insane.
Yeah.
Because
he got out and became a lawyer.
Okay. And then
for handicap rights.
Right. So I'm assuming he spoke about it, wrote about it, told his story.
Yeah, he became a lawyer.
Right.
Like he was like, for the first 18 years of my life, I was imprisoned in this mental institution, and it was horrific. The conditions were horrific.
Yeah.
Some attendant tried to tell me what it was like. They say, imagine it would be so weird. Somebody would drop a rubber band on the floor, and suddenly like 20 kids would descend on this rubber band, and people would be breaking each other's arms for a rubber band because they just don't know.
That's wild. So how do you feel? Because to me, it seems like you had a hand in like blowing up something that's pretty dope, man. Like, when you were making this movie, did you ever think that it would, I guess, help blow up the culture in the way that it did?
No, it was just me and my girlfriend going out on the weekends to an abandoned mental institution with a camera and like trying to tell this story. Right.
So look, you hit a home run with this one. What's next? Is there something else on your pipeline?
Well, I did another one after that called Killer Legends.
Right.
And when we looked at 4 urban legends around the country. We looked at like how tainted Halloween candy, which is coming up again.
Right.
And how that was never a thing.
Wait, Joshua, don't you dare tell me that. Because I remember growing up, that's one reason why we couldn't get candy, because they would say people was putting razor blades in the Snickers. Nobody was ever doing that.
Nope. Never happens. Never really happens, except for, we looked at the first case where it actually did happen, and it only happened because a guy in Houston, Texas, in 1976, Ronald Clark O'Brien, he put cyanide in a pixie stick, and he like fake put it in his kid's candy, and he actually ended up murdering his own son with cyanide and blaming it on like, oh, you know,
I must have got it.
Somebody must have tainted this kid's candy. And the police were interviewing him, and he's like, it happens all the time. And the police actually like consulted experts, and they're like, actually, it doesn't happen all the time. You're busted.
Right.
And now that guy is known as the man who killed Halloween, and he was executed in Huntsville, Alabama for that crime.
Oh, wow.
Lethal injection.
We definitely
with cyanide.
The irony, right?
So that doesn't really happen. But I was just reading an article before where like it's happening again. Now they're saying, you know, weed, like weed candy. Be careful. People are making weed candy. It's looking
Joshua,
like regular candy.
Look, let me tell you something, man. Nobody's giving away free weed candy for
That's
Halloween.
what I'm saying.
That's not what they're doing, parents. Don't let them put that lie in y'all's head. That costs money, guys. Nobody's throwing money down the drain.
Maybe a razor blade, it's cheap, but not weed candy.
Weed
what are you,
candy.
crazy?
Not what the prices are today, Joshua. Not today.
Exactly.
They got loud. They got none of that. No, I'm just playing. But look, Joshua, man, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for coming in and talking to me today, man.
My pleasure.
Urban Legends with the Ghost Brothers is a Discovery Plus podcast. From Discovery Plus, our executive producer is Marissa Lucy. Our show is produced by Neon Hum Media. At Neon Hum, our executive producer is Jonathan Hirsch. Our lead producer is Joanna Clay. Our associate producers are Chloe Chobel and Evan Jacoby. Our production manager is Samantha Allison. And editorial support, that comes from Nick White. Music is by Asha Ivanovich. Our concept is by Odelia Rubin and Shara Morris. Josh Hahn and Hans Del Sue engineered this episode.
Thanks for listening to Urban Legends with the Ghost Brothers. We love sharing these stories with you.
And we love hearing yours. Keep those things coming, B.
And listen, man, do not forget to rate and review us. It helps other folks just like you find the show. All right, y'all. See you next time.
See ya.
Peace out.